So, what are we doing here? I think I'm going to finally give my opinion on the Barefoot's Footprint O2s versus the Focal Twin6 BE. You're wondering why is there only one of them in the corner? I just took the other one down. Don't ask me why. Actually, you have every right to question. You have every right to question why there's pink fluffy shit in between the gaps of my speakers. You have right to ask, why is this guy using so much red in his room? But it's not what I'm here to tell you today. Let me adjust this thing. Okay. We're doing this Z reviews style, y'all. I'm gonna adjust this up so it looks like, there we go. Maybe that'll work. Those little Geno X I don't even turn on. I'm sorry. But it's taken me a while to really get used to knowing the Barefoots. I feel like I've got a much better understanding of them now after 10 months of owning them. I've had the Focals for about 2 months, and I love them. The mid-range on them is fantastic. They are a fantastic speaker. The Barefoots, they are a fantastic speaker. They both have strengths. They both have what I will call ailments. I don't want to say weaknesses, because they're not weak by any means. I know the Barefoots have been doing just more and more research. I know Dayton Audio Woofers, C's Tweeter, Dayton mid-range. Supposedly that Dayton mid-range is a badass little piece of component. And I agree. I know they're using Class D amp with DSP. I know Focal, they're using like some Class G or something like that with some other company who actually makes their amps. Now here's the thing, okay, sound wise, the Focals are they're split up 150 hertz down on the woofer's on top in this case, 150 to 2500 on the mid. I like the fact that the mid is also a 6.5 inch driver, because with that larger driver, it just seems to me that creating those vibrations in that regiment of 150 to 300 hertz, even up to like 500, 600, even up to 800, it feels like, is just like a little more prominent, because there's more space for that air to actually push out of. There's more surface, that's the word, for the air to be pushed out of. They are ported, but it's still a pretty tight speaker. It's fairly tight in the low end. Compared to the Barefoot, they have just a different sound signature with bass. You know, talking like 80 hertz and below. I mean, they really, the Focal Twins cut off at 40. I mean, it's a sharp cutoff. Which is fine, because I'm not producing much that I think is like a game changer below 40 anyway. I mean, maybe there might be some 38 hertz stuff, the low D's, but nothing that a good old analyzer can't do. You know, and I guess when you really want to hit bass notes that low, you should be able to get a texture of it, even if you're getting a roll off anyway. Here's, I guess, really, compared to the Barefoots, more amplitude, more detail in the treble region with the Barefoots. The low end is just smoother. I just, the characteristic tonality of the bass that comes out of the Barefoots is just smooth as butter. I think maybe the Twins might be too big for this room. I'm in a 10 foot by 15, I know, common denominator, by 9 foot tall ceiling. I'm gonna close this door and turn off this AC. Sorry, y'all. And this room is treated to the max. I mean, there's 12-inch bass traps all in that corner. There's 24 inches of trap. There's 24 inches of trap. Actually, that's 27 inches because that's 12 turned sideways anyhow. That is open for a reason. That is open. Well, it's actually open for no reason. This was against the wall before. It sounds a little reflective from here to here, obviously, because there's hard surfaces. So what I did, and I found this to be just a much more pleasing and workable experience for me, is that I turn these traps sideways. So, just so you guys get a reference of how I'm listening in here and what I'm listening to, I've actually tuned this with Room EQ Wizard in the listening space. I did a few different spots, kind of centralized, and like, okay, this seems to make the most sense, average amount. And then applied, there's a guy that does a Room EQ Wizard tutorial online. And sure, you can do the left and the right, but I have a hard surface and a soft surface. There's drywall, there's concrete. So it's like, I just did it in stereo, and it works fine for me, okay? I did measurements post for both the focals and the Barefoots. I got them lined up as best as I can. I've done so many speaker placements in here. Don't even try to tell me that your placements aren't right. Maybe you should get this and that, whatever. I don't. Here's just what I'm telling you right now. Between the two, if you do like a mid-forward speaker, Focal Twins, if you like more treble detail and being able to discern where places are, even in the stereo image, I like the imaging on the Barefoots, man. It's scary how awesome that Phantom Center is. They did a really good job. Or Dayton's components and C's components together is just a good fit. And the crossover is 180 hertz on that too, on the little guys. You know, on the bigger Barefoots, the footprint on ones, it's 250. So you have 180 hertz coming at you from the front at an 18 dB slope. Maybe some of you guys know what that sounds like when working with EQs and software, but it's awesome. I mean, it's not like mixing those low mids are not present in the Barefoots. It's just that it's not as in your face as the Focals, obviously, with the 6.5-inch driver, poking at you. These do go significantly louder. So when I did tune these, and there's a huge 80 hertz dip in my room, I can't escape it, no matter where I sit. I mean, if I sit far back enough, I can escape it, but it's not ideal for the width of the room, obviously. In my instance, monitor placement, ease of access to get to the gear that I need to turn on and power on and stuff like that. Switching monitor control. I mean, I found it to be more of a nuisance to try to figure out another solution for the screen than to turn the room. So, with that being said, I still live with the 80 hertz dip in both of them. I can't escape it. So take that as you will if you're going to judge my review on the fact that there's 10 dB missing from 75 to about 87 hertz. I'm sorry. But what I can tell you is that I blew one of the woofers on the Barefoot. There's 2 woofers on each side, and I blew one of them. Maybe it's bad tuning. Maybe it's bad protection overload. I can't say. I mean, in a way, you kind of do get what you pay for. I mean, they're $3,000 for the pair. That's $1,500 each. That's 2 woofers, a good mid and a good tweeter, plus DSP, and circuit protection control, that whole 9. But I mean, is it really protecting your circuitry? I don't know. The sealed cabinet design is awesome. It's just they're tight little speakers, the Barefoots. Focal, I don't know how they're doing that, handling that SPL with one woofer driving the bass and one woofer handling from 150 to 2500. That kind of blows my mind, honestly. And I've never had any clipping issues on those things. Nothing to where I was like, wow, this is actually still comfortably pushing without any sort of intermodular distortion. I remember when I had the KH310s, those seemed to have more harmonic distortion as the amplitude got louder than any of these did. In my experience with my room with my ears, that's why I kept the Barefoots, because at different volumes, it seemed to be very linear. The focals, maybe it's the room too. The focals, once you get louder with these buggers, they definitely become a little more PA-like. What I can say is that, like, without any tuning or anything like that, those things are very, like, 2K strong, 2.5K strong. It's a little hissy. In fact, the noise floor on these amps within the focals are the noisiest that I've heard within a studio monitor. And I'm working at a close distance, but it's not close enough to where it's... no, this room gets pretty quiet. It can become apparent, but it's not a distraction. When nothing's on, you can hear it. You put your ear up to the Barefoots, and you're like, oh, I think I hear something. What are those, 4,000 a pair new? 3,000 a pair new? 4, 3? If you have a bigger room, the focals would be singing. I've had them in a horizontal space. I think the imaging was just way too skewed for me at that point. This is my second position of having them vertical. I had them vertical, closer, whole desk pulled back, the whole wall with bass traps. Like R19, like just fucking packed to the brim. But I wanted to get closer to the wall because, like, the tuning that I had before was just so compensating. So much compensation for missing low end that I had the trim, low left trim, turned up all the way in the focals, plus digital gain. And that was just not healthy seeming. I was like, I don't want to fuck up the amps. I don't want to blow a woofer. So I pushed them against the wall so I can get a little more low frequency amplitude from rear reflections, which is fine because I then didn't have to trim all the way up. Anyhow, with all of that compensation, those things still could handle. They definitely do need some room to breathe. I think sitting close to the focals is just a little much. The Barefoots, they're perfect for near fields, man. I was a little bit, maybe a foot closer, but that's significant in a 10-foot room, So if you're, I'm a little closer to the Barefoots, it's not as much of a distraction or a loss of hearing or fatiguing than if I were to sit next to these big old focals. Plus, the dispersion on the focals just seems a little more obtrusive. You kind of do have to sit right with them. You kind of have to place the Barefoots right because of their pointy tweeter. That waveguide, I don't understand it. But maybe I don't need to. I'm not a speaker designer. What I do know is that every little inch of pointing the Barefoots counts, and you can't get it in 90. It's, to me, in my room, with my ears, my experience, it's probably 95%. I'm happy. I could tell the left and the right fairly well without turning my head and being like, oh, that sounds normal. So, with the focals, I think that inverted dome tweeter does have a nice dispersion, but that crossover point from the mid to the tweeter creates some odd sounding peaks. And but I reference them when I want to get an understanding of the mid-range. I really do. Low mid width. If low mids are overpowering each other in certain instruments, harder to tell in the Barefoots. If I have low mids from a snare or certain bass lines that are stacking within hardstyle, kick and bass relationship is really nice in the focals. Vocal mixing and overall level balancing, I have an easier time in the Barefoots just because of the smaller mid, I think. And I think I'm probably going to say it's due to the closed cabinet tightness of the box. I know I keep rubbing my foot. I hope you're not watching that. I haven't turned on the Baby Gen OX in forever and a half. And I'm going to have a hard time getting rid of the Barefoots. I don't want to get rid of them. I mean, this whole meme thing, this tool has just become a part of my integral workflow. You can't do that in the focals, you know? I can't, so it's easier to get a little fatigued. You know, if I'm feeling fatigued in the Barefoots with all the low end in the room, I just switch to the cube and I put the mix in mono and work from there and call it a day. And I know I should probably mix in mono more, but it's so fun working in full range. But, you know, I think in a way you kind of do get what you pay for and then some with the Barefoots. To me, it seems like there's just some component. The components are good, but I blew a woofer on one of them. Maybe if there was no tuning involved, that wouldn't have happened. But because there have been some times where I've peaked on the Barefoots without tuning, and it's like, okay, it's doing its job. And the tuning I have in there is much more lenient now. It's subtractive only, and I'm really not playing overkill here. I'm not boosting that null. And so, it's got a tight bottom, mate, you know? I won't do that again. So if you're on the fence between the Focal Twins or even the Barefoot Footprint 02s, I mean 01s, the 01s are the bigger boys. These are the little guys. It really depends on the size of room you're in my opinion. Well, it's really what it comes down to. It comes down to the size of your room, your treatment, you know. If you're going to tune it, I'm not using no Sonar Works. I measured it with a measurement mic that I own and just did all Room EQ Wizard stuff and Equalizer APO. Fucking godsend if these guys are writing this stuff. And you know, it seems like that they're beryllium tweeters, like their prized possession, but I found the mid-range more fascinating, to be honest. The fact that all that information is coming out of the 6.5-inch driver as opposed to like, and it's not even like a true 4-inch driver on the Barefoot. It's like 3 and change. So I think 4 is the whole driver itself, not the diaphragm and the cone. And so I could see where things kind of get lost in from 180 to 800. Yeah, I totally can. I really can, you know. So if that stuff's important to you, man, that's a tough call. Because the 01s, they cross over at 150, and I don't know what that 180 to 250 would sound like from the side woofers in this room. I really don't. I can't really judge on that. So that means 250 hertz to 800 hertz, 850. I'm sorry, 250 to, it's either 1800 or 2500 is the actual crossover point. I was just talking about 800 hertz just as like a listening experience. 180 to 800 is harder to make judgment calls in the Barefoots, for sure. I'll have to leave the room and come back and like really assess, which I think is healthy for engineers and producers to do. What else can I say about the focals? I don't know, man. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me. I'm everywhere, the Buckness Official. I'm on social media every day. I'm one of those people, so please feel free to reach out, comment. Anytime. I'm everywhere as much as I can. Yeah. So I really kind of have love for them both. But if I had to give up one for my room, my space, I would give up the focals basically due to the meme. If this thing was gone, I had nothing but those two, then it would be a much, much, much tougher call. And I wouldn't know what to do. I really wouldn't. I think because I've adapted so well to the Barefoots over a period of time that I already kind of know how they sound, how to work on them. But it's like having that extra pair helps so much. I got them because they were a fucking steal of a price here locally in the Bay Area. And there's a hole in one of the tweeters, but I have not noticed a single difference. And you could say, oh, the beryllium is bad for you. I'm not putting up and snorting lines off of it. I'm not putting it in my sandwiches, so I think we're okay. Plus, there's pink cotton everywhere. And I've done much more worse to my body. So, with that being said, they're resilient. And, yeah, that's hard. You know? I know the components are a little more expensive to replace on the focals. $400 tweeter and like a $300 woofer, as opposed to these Barefoots are probably $70 to $120 for the tweeter. I haven't really dug in and looked. Can't be much more for the Dayton mid. Can't be much more for the woofer either. So it's like you kind of got your butt covered. In fact, Barefoot sent me a woofer, which I haven't put in yet because I haven't noticed as much issues with the new tuning, because that's also why I pushed it against the wall. I'm like, you know what, I blew a woofer, I gotta push this all against the wall, I need some more amplitude to work with, and I'll live with the dip. So I know 90 dB max SPL, and it's like 103 max SPL on the focals. I don't know how they do it with the 6.5 inch single, man. I mean, it's that glass, composite, glass, that's what it is, glass, composite, and glass. Some sort of paper composite. Focal, they've been doing it, man, for years and years and years. I mean, they're manufacturing their own stuff, so they have the R&D. You know, it's like and plus they make things like the Utopias and the, you know, beyond the SM line. You know, the studio monitor line, the SM9s. I mean, the SM9's been around since 2012, and they haven't needed to update that by any means. But I mean, you look at their home theater stuff, their high-end car audio stuff, even their headphones, you know, they've got it down, you know, and it's a good sound. It's just, I don't know if it's right for me in my room. In the room, if I had another couple of feet, maybe it'd be a different story. And if Focal had done the what do they have it on their trios, the cutoff, where you cut off the woofer. But that wouldn't make sense. I guess that would turn it into a solo with 180 hertz up, which wouldn't be a bad thing, honestly. I could actually see a good amount of benefit to that, cutting off that woofer, just having the mid and tweeter, and it's got this diagonal thing going on, but I don't notice like the directional issue at all, because I still get a phantom center. Surprisingly, I get in Zoom calls and I'm like, is that the Barefoots or the Focals? Oh, I'm on the Focals right now. So I know this video turned out longer than intended, but it was well worth it. And I have them hooked up to my Bifrost, which I'm using Ghost cable. They're a new company. I don't even know if they've officially launched yet, but Rob Robinson, dude, sent me a couple samples, and those things are phenomenal. I can't say how I have not gone down the rabbit hole of audio cables. I won't go down the rabbit hole of power cables. I went from cheapo mono price to Mogami 2549, actually 2534, and then 2549, and then these are Miles Smokin' Joe Frazier, way sicker than the Mogamis. I mean, they're a different flavor. The color, it's so just, I'm not saying color as in like it adds color, but it's like the imagination of how your mind glistens to music. It's a beautiful thing. So Ghost cable, their analog cable, badass. I tried their digital cable on both of them, Barefoots and the Focals. I could tell a difference. I personally like the analogs better. So they are cable sensitive. If you're in a good space and you can test that for your own self. I haven't tried any Vovox, Grim TPR. You just got to do your own research. All I can say is Ghost cable's badass. I could tell the difference on both of them. Both of them have the Ghost. The Mogami is in the closet now. I think I have Mogami still connected to the Genoa because I didn't have any more Ghosts that I wanted to cut. Yeah. So, where should you put your $4,000? In the bank and get some 8341s down the line. That's what I'm trying to do, actually. So, anyhow, but right now, if you can score a deal on the Twins for less than 3K, I'd say they're worth it. If you're in a bigger space than 10 wide, 15 long feet. Sorry, we're not as cool as other countries. Barefoots, they just seem to work well, and I mean, they would. I would almost imagine, even in a bigger room, they would seem to work well enough. I don't know. The low end might be a little compensated for in a bigger room, hence the larger SPL and the Focals, in my opinion. But the detail in the Barefoots is just stunning. So I need them both. I still didn't answer your question of where you should put your money between the two. And those Barefoots are flying out like hotcakes, so get them while you can. Components are easier to replace. I don't know if they got QC issues or what, but they're beautiful speakers, man. I'm pumped. Like I said, I have a hard time getting rid of them because of the meme thing. It's really a absolute integral tool. So I hope I did not bore you guys to death, and I hope you guys got something out of it. Maybe you guys were listening to this in the bathtub, while you're cooking, while you're taking a poo-poo, in the car. Yep, none of these guys are endorsing me. If they were, sweet, but they're not. Nobody is, which is fine, 'cause I'm happy with what I have. And that's the thing. I'm staying grateful. So, anyhow, thank you for watching this video.